One of the ironies of investing is that a bigger risk than being exposed to the stock market is not being exposed to the stock market. When markets are volatile, or when there appears to be no end in sight to a long bear market, some investors choose to take risk off the table. Some abandon equities altogether, but it can be a dangerous strategy.
The problem about making a decision to come out of the market or not be in the market is you've got to then make a decision when to go back into it. So in other words, you've got two decisions to make, whether it's on mission or commission. So whether it's an act of on mission, not doing something, or commission of doing something, you then have to decide when to do the alternative.
A common feature of market bottoms is that once the lowest point has been reached, prices can start recovering very quickly. Some of the best days for equity returns come at the very start of a bull market.
The risk of missing the best days is very large, simply because a few trading days make up a very large percentage of overall gains over long time periods. Traders that I talk to often use the rule of thumb that something like the best trading days over a long period make up half of their entire returns. So if you miss out any of those, you will have lost out on quite a proportion of your overall gains. And since you cannot time the market with a reasonable degree of precision, you're very likely to lose out on the best trading days if you try to do that.
Good days can be very good. They could be, 5 or 10% market movements. That's not very often, but it could happen. So if you go away and you miss 10 or 15%, then that's extremely bad. And then you might go back in just as it collapses. You can't tell, but it's just adding an extra level of risk to your investment strategy, which is not worth taking.
And there's another important reason why you should stay invested. The longer you're in the market for, the more you will benefit from the effects of compounding.
Compound interest is where you take £1,000, let's say, you make 10% in over, let's say, 1 year. And so at the end of the year, you have £1,100. If you do that again, the following year, you make £110 of return. So you've got £1,210. And crucially, that £10, so that is the return on your return. And that is the beginning of compounding. So compounding to me just means the return on your return. And what that means to any mathematician is a geometric progression. It means that the curve gets steeper over time and the return on your return becomes more. Most people think, so, I make £1,100 on £1,000 in year one and then £1,210 in year two. That, big whoop. What does that actually mean? But the numbers over time get extremely big and are extremely powerful. And basically, that compound interest is probably the number one reason why anyone becomes really, really wealthy over time. Warren Buffett talks about the fact that he's made something like 90% of his wealth since his 60th birthday, because the curve gets so much steeper. And obviously, 10% on £1 million in absolute numbers is an awful lot more than 10% on £1,000. I mean, that's obvious, but that's why the effect is so powerful.
So to return to that Jenga analogy we used earlier, just hold your nerve. Yes, the tower will fall from time to time, but you need to stay in the game. It's not fear that's rewarded in the equity markets, it's courage.